Anthem, and please address the flag. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, we'll do a quick roll call. On my right, we have Councillor Tony Brunet, Councillor Lynn Timmers, Councillor Dave Thompson, and Councillor Rob Foster. To my left, we have Councillor Wayne McMillan, Councillor J.D. Pachariva, Councillor Diane Ranjima, and Councillor Paul McPherson. On my right is Mr. William Kalasa, the clerk, and on my left, Mr. Kirkopoulos, Mr. Mike Kirkopoulos, that's what I was having trouble getting out, our CAO. And in the back row, we have Chief Greg Hudson, Mr. Robert Spadoni, who's the Director of Finance, Mr. Asad Hussein, the Director of Sport, Recreation and Culture, Mrs. Kathleen Dale, the Director of Planning. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? There being none, I'll ask for the confirmation of agenda. Any adjustments? Mr. Clerk, do we require a motion to accept the agenda as circulated?
Through you, Madam Mayor. This is a new implementation of our recently revised procedural bylaw. A motion isn't absolutely contemplated. If you feel more comfortable doing one, by all means, and we can certainly start preparing those on a go-forward basis if you wish. But otherwise, I suggest no, one is not absolutely necessary.
All right.
Your call.
This came up at the region a week ago, and I thought I would ask when our turn came around. Any interest from councillors to have a formal motion at this juncture? Nothing? Thank you very much. That clarifies that. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. All right, the adoption of the previous council minutes. That would be the meeting of June 20th. I have a motion moved by Councillor McMillan and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that the minutes of the June 20th, 2016 regular meeting of council, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted as circulated. Any changes or adjustments, questions to the motion, to the minutes? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you. Councillors, is there any business arising from the minutes? Nothing? Move on to the mayor's report. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have not been to a council meeting in the last little while, at this point in the agenda, I'd like to provide a little rundown on what I've been up to for the last couple of weeks. And these days, things are pretty busy on our town, so I'm starting to group things together. Some of it's social, some of it's political, Some of it is just in the best interest of the town in terms of the plans and directions that council has provided going forward. I attended Kathy McNiven's retirement along with other members of council. She was the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce and really did a sterling job of expanding the chamber and also in ensuring that the chamber had a very strong profile within the community. The town has enjoyed a very, very positive and progressive relationship with the chamber, and we now have a new executive director, Lisa Perret, and we look forward to working with her. The 20 Valley Tourism Association held its annual general meeting. Mr. Kirkopoulos was the guest speaker, which is always a good opportunity to express the directions and general intentions of council as far as tourism is concerned going forward. You may or may not know that of the 70-odd wineries that exist within the town, within the Niagara region, that 53 of those are in the town of Lincoln. And the quality of our wine is certainly second to none, and we're growing all the time. And you'll see at least one application tonight, one that is existing and one that is new. So we're always happy to see new business in that area. I attended the Ontario Tender Fruit season launch. It was held this year at the Trugano Farms in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And I have to tell you, these people, the Truganos, they farm about 800 acres. And they have many, many vineyards, but they also have a lot of tree fruit. It's quite interesting to see how a business on that scale actually operates. And after that opening, I had an opportunity to see the expansion to the Vineland Growers that has gone on. They have climate-controlled rooms there. All the fruit goes down to Vineland Growers, and most of it goes to Niagara-on-the-Lake. Another great quantity goes into Jordan. But the point is that this is the way it was when we were all growing up, and your father put all the baskets on the back of the trailer, and off you went to the station, as they called it. You had to be there by 4 o'clock, or you didn't get your fruit off. So this way, the farmers they bring in everything on pallets, and it's put in these big rooms. The first in goes out first, and it's really quite an operation. So this means that the fruit's available in the market within about 48 hours, and strong relationships are being developed with the large stores now, the larger grocery stores. So this is all very good business, all part of our Center of Excellence for Agriculture. Our fruit markets are certainly in full swing, and strawberries are on the wane now, but cherries are coming on in full force. There are 4 new businesses and 1 expanded business, 4 in Jordan and 1 in Beamsville that I attended openings or special events related to. I attended on behalf of the town the Poultry Fest in West Lincoln at the West Niagara Fairgrounds, and it was a very lovely day. And I challenged Mayor Joyner to the duck contest, and so then Mr. Hudak, our MPP, decided he wanted to get into the game, and he actually beat the 2 of us, so there you go. This council has been discussing the airport studies. At the present time, the Niagara District Airport is supported by Niagara-on-the-Lake, who actually own the airport, the City of St. Catharines, and also Niagara Falls. And so they are wanting to relieve themselves of that responsibility. And both Councillor Brunet and I have been attending meetings in different capacities, but still all in an effort to get as much information as we can to determine whether or not this is good for the town of Lincoln, who at the moment has absolutely no direct or indirect benefit from the airport. I met with David Fleming, who is one of the Lincoln Concert Band principals. I was becoming concerned that the Lincoln Concert Band, which is also very central to the life of our community, had started to be quite invisible. And they, of course, would like to become more involved in events, and we're on our way to making certain that that will happen. I presented a check. The total value of the check that I was presenting was $12,285. All of this came from the golf tournament. And because of one or two really generous benefactors this year, I had this extra $3,285 to spread around. So the $3,000 each went to children, a youth and adult reading program. I just happen to think that literacy is a foundation for avoiding poverty, if that is at all possible. At least you're not on your back heels because you can't, because you're not able to read. So that was $9,000, and then I donated the balance, $3,285, to the Lincoln Community Fund, and that is a fund that we now have close to $17,000 in it, and it's going to be very beneficial to youth programming within our town. On June the 28th, I'm sure you're aware by now about the GO announcement, which I've been actively involved in at the regional level since I became mayor. And the town of Lincoln is not on the A list, if you will. It starts in Grimsby and goes directly to St. Catharines and then Niagara Falls. However, I made it very clear at the very first meeting that I attended that the town of Lincoln was growing in a way that should make it pretty obvious that we needed to be part of the discussions until all the decisions are made. And I really believe that it's never over till it's over. And so now we've got a good sense of what the logistics are. There's 30 kilometers of track. There's quite a lot of work to do, and it looks like the first passengers will be going out of Grimsby in 2021. So that leaves the town of Lincoln in a very good position to really start to develop a strategy around how we're going to become part of that A list. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later tonight. July 1st was Canada Day, and we had a great turnout at Charles Daly Park, as we always do. The weather was wonderful. You weren't sure whether you should be praying for rain or not. The farmers are suffering so much. And we had wonderful entertainment, lots of good work by the staff, and excellent cake, which disappeared in short order. Unfortunately, the fireworks display, which was really well attended, had to be canceled. The winds were really just about gale winds. The onshore winds were really quite incredible. And those who are the licensed fireworks supervisors had to make a decision, and they felt that it would be far too risky to proceed. So we all had to live with that decision. But be assured that when the 150 comes around, because this was Canada's 149th, so next year when we have the 150th, we'll really be going all out. And I just want to remind everyone, because there is no meeting tomorrow night, that the Rotary Sunset Music Series starts at 7 to 8:30 at Charles Daly Park. And maybe someone around the Horseshoe will know who's playing, but at any rate, that's my story for tonight. It was a great 2 weeks, busy but very satisfying. There is no regional councillors meeting tonight, report tonight, other than the matter of the GO rail, which I reported on. And councillor reports, and I can't remember where I've started recently, but tonight I'm going to start with you, Councillor McMillan.
It's a good place to start because I have nothing to report this time.
Very good. We'll accept that. Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. I attended my first Greater Niagara Circle Route meeting last Wednesday. And a few of the items that were on the agenda, actually the first one was rather pertinent, was a proposed updating of connector route signs at the Niagara Falls train station and the Waterfront Trail. And the proposed program is called Trail to Go, and it's a Metrolinx initiative. So what they'll be doing is there was 10 stations selected throughout the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Niagara Falls was one of the ones that was identified, and Bridge Street was previously signed in 2007 as part of the Bike Train Initiative. So this will just be an updating of those signs, and the only cost to the region will be sign installation. The second piece of business was about dealing with an extension of the Greater Niagara Circle route to St. Catharines Lock Number 1. But unfortunately, none of the extensions or spending of the approximately $1.4 million can be carried out until the region actually completes their study. So they have a Greater Niagara Circle Route Asset Management Strategy. So the money is all being held, and right now they were going to have a look at the area municipalities on what agreements are in place, what part of the trail is owned, what part of the trail is leased, and then AMEC, Environmental and Infrastructure, was retained to complete a I want to say meter by meter analysis of the route, figure out what needs to be done, what are the upgrades, and then another subconsultant, Amerisco, undertook the legal, risk management, and financial component of this project. But the corporate leadership team and staff at the region need to put this on the front burner and get it going, because any of the updates that want to be carried out by our group are being held up in limbo. And also the committee asked to comment on this asset management strategy before it goes to council. So, Your Worship, any assistance that you can provide by lighting a fire under the necessary people up there on that senior management team would be greatly appreciated. One of the other things, too, under new business that came out of it, and I'm looking at our Recreation, Sport, and Culture Director, Mr. Hussein, is that next year for Canada 150, the GNRC is going to do a 2-month-long promotion of events happening in each one of the municipalities and how to use the circle route to get there. So I think what we should be doing is again, through our active transportation, sitting there and providing a linkage either with our Greenbelt cycling route or a waterfront trail, and then providing details on what is happening in the town of Lincoln and how we can get the regional residents to and fro. So I look forward to sitting down with Mr. Hussein and coming up with a comprehensive list and providing that at our earliest convenience to the group, and we can take it from there.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor Pachariva. Councillor Njima?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I don't have anything huge, but to talk about, again, what you mentioned, Kathy McNiven's retirement dinner went over very well. It was very well attended, and I think all of our chamber events are very well attended, not just from people in Lincoln, but people from surrounding municipalities show up because they know there's exciting things happening here and that the chamber's doing exciting things. And that's exactly what happened at Kathy McNiven's retirement. There was a lot of people there to say thank you to her, to say goodbye to her, to welcome the incoming staff, and to continue to support all the good work that's being done. And I also was at the TVT AGM along with yourself and Councillor Timmers. And again, it was interesting and a lot of interest. They've elected 4 new board members, and I think there was 8 or 10 people vying for those positions. And I was going to say Canada Day was, I was there. It was well attended. Sorry that the fireworks were canceled, but that's what happens. Bad weather. What can you do? It was very well organized, very well attended. The bands were good. Yeah.
Councillor McPherson, thank you.
Mayor Easton. I was a participant in a few events over the last couple of weeks, and I'll just quickly name them as I'm sure the councillors that are running these various events will have something to say about them in more detail. I attended the Lincoln Mavericks press conference, and I expect that Councillor Thompson will comment on that. Basically launching the Mavericks hockey team in a formal press conference. I also attended the active transportation meeting. Was a a participant in that meeting, and I felt as though it was a very good first meeting, and plans for another one shortly down the road. I did attend with Mary Easton the Jordan Muse store openings, and Mr. Panicetti shared a little story during that opening with the crowd that was there about the Jordan Historical shop, and I've got that name wrong, but they have been there for 20 years, and ever since that, Jordan Cave Springs remodeled, and he mentioned that our mayor was one of the founding people involved in that store, and it's a credit to her and to all of the volunteers that have been part of that store ever since, that it's still there, it's still thriving, and they are bringing in much-needed funds for the Jordan Historical Committee. So very well attended, as I say, and we've got 4 brand-new stores down there. I think you should all check them out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, 100% volunteer that store still is. It's amazing. Councillor Foster, how about you starting?
Thank you. Just to fall back on the Rotary Club and the Sunset Music Series, July the 5th, coming up tomorrow night, is a classic rock group called Vinyl Flux. On July the 12th, it's MGM Trio. They're a jazz group that are going to be playing. On July the 19th, there's a swing group called My Sweet Patootie. That one should be interesting. So. And on July the 22nd for the Rotary Club as well, the annual Wing Fest is going on down at Charles Daly Park. So that will be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 22nd through the 24th. And all of that is on both Facebook and on the Lincoln Rotary website. A couple of other things, or just another minor thing. I want to thank the support of council for nominating me for an AMO position, and it looks like I have an election on my hands. So I will be looking forward to working with everybody to secure that position when we get there. And the other thing, too, is my daytime job has kept me in Vancouver a fair bit the last month or so. So unfortunately, I missed both Kathy's and the TVTA. But my wife totally enjoyed going, and she said I can go back to Vancouver anytime I want. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I think Councillor Thompson's got his costume he's going to put on here, so go for it, Councillor.
I'm ready, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to get my hat on here. And I'm just really pleased that I was able to take your place at the press conference on June 21st for the new Lincoln Mavericks Junior A hockey team, and welcome them at their first press conference. So I'll wear this till I'm done my spiel, and I got a nice hat, and now it's broken in. I can sport it from now on. So the other thing was the active transportation session that I'm sure Councillor Bernay is going to speak more to. And I was pleased and honored to be able to host the Canada Day celebrations down at Charles Daly Park as the MC. So yeah, so I've been a little bit busy too. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
That's great. Thank you very much for attending on all of our behalf. And Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I have been at quite a few things that have already been mentioned. The Lincoln Maverick, the launch of that, and the TVTA, and quite a few of the things that the other councillors have been at, as well as the Canada Day celebrations, which was a really fantastic event. The jump and bounce was extremely popular with the children down there. As I sit on the library board, and I have a couple of little announcements of things that are happening at the library. Today is the beginning of registration for the Summer Reading Club. And what that involves is you read a book, you go back, you report it, and when you have so many books, you can enter for the grand party at the end, which will be a Reptile Kingdom. And it sounds pretty exciting. That's going to happen in August 18th at the Fleming Center. And the TD Summer Reading Club is to promote reading amongst children, to keep them reading through the summer so they're not losing their reading skills as they take off the couple of months from school. And it's designed to inspire children to develop a love of reading and books. So if you have children out there that are interested, it's a free program. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Brunet?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things. I as well attended the Maverick press conference, and Councillor Thompson did a great job up at the mic welcoming the Mavericks into town. It was great to see already that they're well on their way to establishing their team of scouts and coaches and trainers, and you know, they seem like they're really engaging the community and will be going forward. So it was a great press conference, and Dave did a great job. As some of the other councillors have mentioned, we had our first active transportation workshop on June 21st at the Fleming Center from 6 to 9. It was a very busy evening because there was conflicts that were happening throughout the community. I think Mr. Riediger, John Riediger, and his wife showed up at about 8:30. They said they had been already to 3 events that night, but still made it there for the last half hour. So it was very well attended. I want to thank Councillor Pachariva, Councillor McPherson, and Councillor Thompson and Councillor Timmers for showing their support. And I'm sure everybody will be there on July 26th for the second workshop. At least I hope they attend. We had a great cross section of people attend. The Niagara Regional Police. We had people there from Brock University. Our CAO, Mr. Kirkopoulos, did a wonderful job in engaging people from the region of Niagara as well as the city of Hamilton. So I want to thank him as well as all senior staff, Kathleen Dale, Assad Hussein, and David Graham, who were there and gave presentations, which just kind of gave a good launch to us moving forward to start, hopefully starting an active transportation committee. So again, that next meeting will be July 26th, 6 to 9. I think we did a count at one time, and we counted 41 people in attendance. They kind of came and went all night, but it was a great first workshop. The other thing that I had the opportunity to attend on Mayor Easton's behalf was the Niagara Community Support Services AGM meeting, which took place on June 23rd at the Casablanca Winery. As a member of this council's representative on the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Advisory Board, I thought it was something that I wanted to take an interest in, and I was glad I attended. It was their AGM meeting and a luncheon. And the interesting thing is the guest speaker that was there was Dominic Ventresca. And if you recall back about 6 weeks ago, Dominic and Doug Rapchi had come, and so they are going around the region talking about, you know, what we're going to do in the Niagara region with regards to aging population and how municipalities can get on board. And so I was just kind of a fly in the crowd. They didn't know I was there. And the nice thing was they paid us a compliment. They said they'd been to 9 municipalities this year, and they said just down the road, the Lincoln Council is a council that really gets what we're trying to portray here. And he spoke about our council and our engaging that night when they came here. So I thought that was kudos to our council and how we reacted to their presentation. They've been to 9. They've got 3 more to go, and then they're going with their final hurrah to the regional committee. So you know, it's something that I think we all remember that night. It was something that, you know, we need to be cognizant of as we look at you know, our planning of our roads and our communities, and share the road and our signage, the size of the font, you know, for people, our crosswalks on how aging people are going to walk across. So it was really interesting, and I was glad I had the opportunity to attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brunet, and thank you to all the councillors. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're in the audience tonight or whether you're watching on Cogeco tomorrow or next week, there's a lot of wondering sometimes about what is it that councillors do. And the purpose of the councillors' reports is to let you know that there are a certain number of social events that we all go to in the community. If we don't go to them, people are disappointed. However, when those social events can be tied in with either a portfolio that a councillor who is the chair of a major committee, one of the standing committees, holds, or whether it's just an interest that they have, it all really expands into our ability to do a much better job of delivering services to you. and being out amongst the community is a good way to get feedback. So I hope that you find this part of the meeting interesting. Sometimes we have a little bit of fun with it, but basically I think that there's some good sound work that's being done, and it just gives you a bit of a flavor of what we are up to in our spare time. Now, the next item on the agenda is delegations, and we have 3 delegations this evening. And I'd like to call upon Tikva Mindorf and Matt Brunette to come forward from the Niagara Sustainability Initiative. They're going to be talking to us about the carbon project. And I'm very pleased that somebody is doing this, because this is a big project. It's an important project for every community. So to have a seat, to have someone who's taking on the responsibility for making sure it happens around Niagara is very good. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Members of council can switch their inputs to the presentation.
And thank you for having us this evening. My name is Tikva Mindorf, and I'm the Executive Director of Niagara Sustainability Initiative. Here with me this evening is Matt Brunette, our Development and Engagement Manager, who also works with me. And I just want to start off our presentation today by just saying a personal note that it is really nice, Mayor Easton, that you do the council presentations, the member presentations, because I grew up in Lincoln, and I always saw all the events. I went to the Canada Day event pretty much every year, and it's just nice to hear how you're involved. So I think you're the only council that we've seen so far that's done that. So it is very cool, and it's really appreciated. So this evening, we'll be talking to you about Niagara Sustainability Initiative, as the town of Lincoln was in council chambers the evening of our 5th evening of recognition, which is the largest event that we host throughout the year. So I'd like to just run over some highlights for those who weren't able to attend, to inform you on what we've been doing this past year, to talk a little bit about climate change and the work that we do mitigating and measuring our climate impact here in the Niagara region with different organizations. And then Matt's going to cover the more of our organization and the Carbon Project, which is our main program. So just to start off, our 5th evening of annual Evening of Recognition is a large event that we hosted at the end of May this year at White Oaks in Niagara-on-the-Lake. We gave out a few awards. Some of them, each award goes to members, and member organizations win for achieving different benchmarks in our program. So just to announce the winners, we had the Tulip Tree Award given to BD's Basics for the greatest GHG reductions by percentage, which is proportional to the size of the organization. For their size, they reduce the most amount. Now the Best Green Team Award, which is the Pin Oak Award, was the Niagara Ina Grafton Gage Village, and they had a really great speech that you missed out on, given by one of their residents, Ben, who was quite passionate and lovely to listen to. We had the greatest GHG reductions by total tons, the Sugar Maple Award, given to the Fallsview Casino. So in difference to percentage, they had the largest total impact in the Niagara region. The most engaged was the Eastern White Pine, which was given to Niagara College, who's been a long-standing supporter of our program, providing us with interns, institutional support. They're very active as a Carbon Project reporting member and just all around great communicators. And the Sustainability Champion, the White Oak Award, was given to Paul Lacey from General Motors for the work that he was able to do with General Motors this year as the champion for his organization. So the annual Evening of Recognition is just our opportunity to highlight what members have been doing throughout the year. And this year we branded our awards according to different native trees, and the awards were given made by local artists of wood fallen wood sourced here in the Niagara region. So it was quite cool, and I think everyone was quite proud of the awards that they did win. Now, just to give you some background as to why we're here and why we give out awards, Niagara Sustainability Initiative looks at climate change and sustainability. We think the scientific evidence is clear that climate change is one of the greatest threats of our time, as recognized by the Government of Canada in 2015. As you all mentioned numerous times, we are experiencing a drought here, and I'm sure the farmers here in the County of Lincoln are experiencing quite a difficult time with with the lack of rain. And so we recognize that sustainable development is something that we need to move towards, and somehow recognizing how we can continue to be economically prosperous, but with keeping in mind that climate change is happening, and we need to measure and mitigate what we're doing in order to try to stay below the measurement of 2 degrees. So for some background, because we do know that climate change is a relatively new subject for many people, we take a multi-level approach to climate change, which starts at the international level. Well, actually it's multi-level, so it goes back and forth again. So at the international level, you might have heard of the Paris Conference on Climate Change, which happened last November, and the Compact of Mayors, which is another program that's well known that encourages municipalities to come together to discuss how they're working against climate change on an international scale. Nationally, Canada did go to the Paris Conference this year and signed the signatory of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and committed $2 billion to the Low Carbon Economy Trust, which is supposed to help the provincial governments in their current carbon pricing programs, which Cap and Trade was just announced earlier this year. So the provincial government of Ontario invested $325 million to the Green Investment Fund, of which our network program called Sustainability CoLab received $1 million in this previous year to help us with our work here in Niagara. And then we fit into this whole area by working with local organizations and municipalities and academic institutions, utility companies, and learning how to monitor and mitigate their carbon footprint. So as you can see, it goes across. We like to think we're the grassroots organization. We started up here in Niagara. We're from Niagara. We know the ins and out of our community, but we do feed into the larger framework that everyone's trying to work towards for the collective impact. So,
Okay, at this point, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on what Niagara Sustainability Initiative is for any of the councillors or audience members here at home that aren't really familiar with our organization. Before I do that, I'd just like to ask for permission to hand out a couple of hard copies of our 2015 annual report, which coincide with our 5th evening of. All right, so Niagara Sustainability Initiative is a nonprofit organization that was established in 2010. Right now we have about 8 full-time staff and a small army of volunteers, which number periodically, they fluctuate quite high with the school semesters, and last year we hit up around 100 volunteers, which help us with a lot of the operations of the organization, from collecting data for us to helping us with our social media and human resources and so forth. Niagara Sustainability Initiative was based originally on a similar organization that operated out of Waterloo called Sustainable Waterloo Region. Their founder later moved on to create what is now called the Sustainability CoLab, which Tifa referred to just a few moments ago. Sustainability CoLab is a broad umbrella organization that helps manage NSIs across Ontario. Right now there are about 8 organizations operating from here to Hamilton, Waterloo, all the way to Ottawa, Sudbury, York Region, and Durham. And what these organizations do that is similar to NSI is they have target-based sustainability programs that are community-led and offer third-party reporting to add to credibility for organizations that are interested in publicly reporting their carbon emissions. We know that municipalities are already legislated to do that. What our reporting helps do is connect organizations through the Carbon Project that operate in different sectors, sharing best practices, sharing stories, sharing information, and getting the benefit of the recognition for that publicly and with each other. So the Carbon Project is our main program. It's a membership-based program. NSI is funded out of membership fees as well as grants. My position itself is funded entirely out of the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and we do have 4 staff with us that are working over the summer with Canada Summer Jobs. The Carbon Project offers 4 essential components to members. The first one being the carbon reporting software, which we use to measure the carbon emissions that you can see in the annual report. Members also receive a tailored individual annual report, which helps identify the different scopes of emissions that are being reported on, as well as different strategies that an organization can take forward to lower the emissions in that scopes and identify different projects that are both feasible for the organization within budget and timeline. In addition to that, we have our season of events, a online member portal which has a number of resources and templates that member organizations can use to do everything from a waste audit to an energy audit, learning how to engage their employees and how to communicate properly what some of their projects are as well. In addition to that, through our broader CoLab network, there's also the peer-to-peer opportunities that are offered, allowing businesses to connect with other businesses within the network. Right now within CoLab, there's just over 150 organizations across the province that are participating, and all indications are that that network will continue to grow both here in Niagara and abroad as well, which gives our businesses a really unique opportunity for collaboration. So, as I said, we do have a membership fee associated with our program, and that gives businesses access to all of the resources and tools that I just mentioned. Right now we have about 23 members, which represent about 10% of Niagara's workforce. These include some of Niagara's largest employers, and they range in size and sector from the very small and unique businesses to the large global businesses. And annual membership fees range depending on the number of full-time employees at an organization, between 520 at the lower end of the scale to 5,200 for an organization of 500 full-time employees plus. So the benefits that I wanted to highlight today are mainly the municipal benefits. All organizations participating in the program benefit from the knowledge that will help them use their resources more efficiently to provide them with cost savings. The corporate social responsibility factor of this program is often quite feel-good, and it's something that a lot of people are quite passionate about, which helps with the employee attention and retraction. We know that especially within the millennial cohort, that millennials are quite interested in the broader impact of where they're working and what their businesses are doing to make sure that the impact is as good for the local economies and the global economies as well. And then there's the brand enhancement factor, which helps businesses that are doing a lot and that are passionate about environmental causes to share their stories and their information with their communities and with other businesses. And then risk mitigation is another factor, with an adaptation to changes in legislation such as the circular economy, through Waste Free Ontario and the cap and trade, which we'll be having a presentation about later this year. Some of the municipality benefits that I wanted to highlight just quickly were bolstering of a sustainability plan, so that's something that can be its standalone or it can fit within a municipality's strategic plan, streamlining the GHG reporting software, currently legislated to do that through the Green Economy Act, but this helps streamline it for other programs and initiatives such as the Compact of Mayors or other more internationally recognized standards. The local leadership and recognition kind of stems into leadership for business. We find that through municipal support and participation in this type of initiative, it encourages other businesses to start thinking long-term about the sustainability of their operations and thinking about how they can adapt to climate change, whether that's different practices that they can adopt from elsewhere or different stories that they can share locally. And then local events and support. So unlike other climate change networks, we're local, we're based in Niagara, we care about Niagara, we want to see the economy and the businesses here thrive, and we want to see a healthier environment for the communities as well.
You're wrapping up, Matt?
Yes, this will be my last slide. So as some of you may know, a motion was passed at Regional Council a few weeks ago to join the Carbon Project membership and to help support municipalities in joining as well. We are currently in discussion with Niagara Region staff, writing a staff report for a September council meeting. We are in the works of defining what exactly that membership will look like. There will be a likely subsidy of between 20% to a 50% discount on membership fees. We, at this point, would just like to ask that if this is something that the Town of Council is interested in and would support, that we do have a draft letter that we can provide, a letter of support that we would hopefully like to collect before September, so that we can provide that to the region so that they can get a sense of which municipalities see the value in this and would want to benefit or participate in a program like that. Sorry if I went over time. This is my contact information. I just want to thank you again for listening and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And yes, there was a motion that was passed at Regional Council a week ago Thursday, and it referred, the amount was $15,000 to the 2017 budget deliberations for the membership fee and the apportionment that you've described here. Matt, you will, if you provide the clerk, Mr. Colossa, with that letter, it'll come forward under correspondence at the Finance and Administration Committee.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions from any council members? Councillor Rinchima.
First of all, thank you for coming and explaining what your background is, how you came about, what you're doing. I found it really interesting, a lot of things that you said. I like what you said in your brochure about governance versus government. I think that's important. I like what you were saying about employee passion, because I know that's true of my own daughters. They think more about the greater good than they do about what's happening in their own yard, and that's very common among, did you say millennials? Millennials now. So I have a question for you as the council member for the Chamber of Commerce. Do you talk to the chambers, the local chambers, about what you're doing?
We do. Right now, we haven't been able to make it out to each chamber with their different events, but we have been talking with the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce, and they have sponsored a few of our events, but we're looking to get out to a few of the other chamber meetings and events as well, just getting the awareness out there about what we're doing and what we can help businesses do.
Okay.
Just in addition to that, this is the first year that we've been able to come out to all of the council meetings and also all the chamber meetings. Matt's position was funded specifically so that we'd have the opportunity to get out there a bit more. We've been working with members for quite some time, but they're all on our, I guess, agenda now going forward. We have the capacity now to be able to reach out to that extent, which is really great.
Yeah, that's great. I'll keep that in mind and think about it for a future chamber meeting to bring out what you've said here.
Great.
Oh, lovely.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Just thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm just, I know you mentioned in your presentation about cap and trade and the legislation obviously coming from the province. And I guess I have some concerns in and around some of the cogen projects that have been put on, out there for the businesses, local businesses to enroll themselves in and invest in. And I don't know whether it's a question for offline or online here, but certainly there's a concern about, obviously the impact of the increase in the price of the natural gas, especially for a lot of our greenhouse constituents. So I'm just wondering if there's some way that you guys have figured out how to sort of assist with that in regards to, I think it's important to support those businesses, especially because they were taking on what they were, put forward. They were sold a bill of goods of being environmentally friendly. So what are you guys having a position in regards to being able to assist them with that sort of stuff?
Through our event season, which we're building now, our event season typically runs from September to April. There's usually one per month. With the addition of new operations and events coordinator, we're going to be adding more events. Our events typically will focus on topics like that for different sectors. So as we gather information from different interested parties, we'll be able to tailor our events to be specific to that. We are hoping to start off the event season with an event specific to cap and trade and how that'll impact Niagara's businesses in particular. So we will definitely take that into account, and if there's an opportunity to follow up with you or to speak with other concerned businesses from the town of Lincoln, we would be very happy to make sure that we get some of their questions that they would want to ask before having that event so that they can be addressed there.
Thank you. I guess second to that is do you have anybody who's working policy-wise in tandem or in conjunction with the provincial government to sort of give them a feet on the street kind of a scenario as to what impacts some of these things are going to have on a local level?
Yeah, so it's definitely a two-way street for with our relationship with Sustainability CoLab. So throughout the public feedback process for Cap and Trade, we've been able to comment through CoLab. So they prepare different documents, and we actually pass on that opportunity to make comments or suggestions on what CoLab prepares to formally give back to the government through each draft session that has occurred. I think there's been 3 so far that we've been able to participate on, and the most recent one, we've actually sent out a request that if you are interested as a member in making a formal letter of support or making comments, that we'll collect them and CoLab will pass them through for us on behalf of our program. Secondly, we internally we're going to be releasing a white paper and then a supplementary report that'll be a bit less dense, I guess, for people to read the day of our event in September, which will be covering how Cap and Trade affects Niagara, hopefully over the first 5 years, of how we expect it's going to affect you as a business, a consumer, a taxpayer, and so on and so forth. So people get a good understanding of how it's going to work, and hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of questions that come up at that time.
So your policy arm is done through CoLab? Is that correct, essentially? So you don't have somebody on staff doing policy?
No, we at this time we haven't been able. I think just more to do with capacity. So CoLab does it largely for all of the organizations, but we have a lot of consultation with them through it. It's definitely something that we could eventually go to, but at this time, it's not a main priority.
Right. I'll certainly get in contact with you folks and you sort of pass on some contact information in regards to some of the businesses that I know are going to be directly affected by this, because I think it's very important. People have committed a significant amount of money into an investment to do this, and I'd hate to see it go sideways on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we would love that.
That's a good suggestion, Councillor, and certainly if you include Flowers Canada as part of that group, I know that they've been very active at the provincial level looking at energy costs in relation to greenhouses. JD, sorry, Councillor Petrie.
Through you, I just want to comment on both of you for coming in. Very well spoken, very well versed on what we're talking about, because or what your presentation, because carbon footprint, I don't have the slightest clue what my carbon footprint is or what we are producing as a municipality, but I would like to see that. So you said that you report that in ways that we can reduce that as part of our sustainability going forward. The information on membership and that, if we can get that provided and have that discussion at budget time. Driving today and actually cutting my own grass or my straw today, but they were saying on the radio 20 years ago, you never saw that, right? Everyone's grass was green, everyone watered their lawn. We might have a drought, but we don't have a water shortage because of the water conservation that everyone's adopted. So I think the next genesis in environmental sustainability is reducing your own carbon footprint, that of municipalities and that of your business. So I'd be excited to learn a little bit more about that, see where we're at, see how we can get a hold of that going forward. So thanks again for coming in and taking up that fight, because we don't have 4 seasons anymore. We have winter and we have summer, and global warming is all part and parcel of this. So we can't stick our hands in the sand anymore, and we've got to stand up and make change, make stand. So thank you, and I look forward to the info.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. And by the way, thank you very much for the presentation. It was excellent. Councillor Thompson and I have a motion that we'd like to refer back to staff to come up with a position regarding this. So if I may, what we typically do at council here is when a presentation such as yours comes forward, we ask staff to come up with a report to give us some broad strokes on what we should be thinking about, what could be future budget considerations, all this other type of stuff. So anyway, that's the motion that we've just put forward. So.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor. I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that staff prepare a report outlining a position regarding Niagara sustainability for a future council business planning meeting. And I'm going to ask the CAO to respond to that. and then see if you have other comments.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thanks for the opportunity. And I want to thank both Tikva and Matt for being here. I know Matt came to see you and I, Mayor Easton, a few months ago and spoke to us about the sustainability work that he's doing in Niagara Sustainability. I think we had a good meeting, and he shared a lot of the information that was presented this evening, and something definitely I think both you and I said that this council and this organization and community would be interested in. So absolutely, we'll be back, with a position as well as offering any support we need to do from the perspective of Niagara region and being part of that broader collective, ability to find some savings so that we can be a part of this initiative. So we'll definitely be reaching out.
Very good. Councillor Foster, anything further?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Sure. Okay, your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Very good. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your presentation, Tikva and Matt, and I'm sure we'll see you around.
You bet. Thank you so
very much.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call up Bob Gordon and Doug Mepham from the Grimsby Auxiliary Marine Rescue Unit for their presentation. Welcome, gentlemen. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And
are your microphones on?
Yeah.
They're red?
Appear to be, yes. Thank you.
Just pull them close to you, if you would, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Apologies for that. And one more. Sorry, I'm a Mac guy. Where am I? Lost here.
The slideshow. Right.
Sorry. You can never see it when you're looking at it. Thank you. Slideshow. Thank you. Now. Okay. I'm sorry. Where am I going wrong here? Top left.
With all that help.
That wasn't hard, was it? Good evening.
Just take a couple of deep breaths and you're off.
And thank you very much. All right. Now this is going to be annoying. Let's try that. As you heard, Your Worship, councillors, thank you very much. My name is Doug Mepham. I'm a director of the Grimsby Auxiliary Marine Rescue Unit, Gamaroo to our friends. With me tonight is Bob Gordon, who is our unit leader and a man who's been instrumental in the renovation and rehabilitation of Gamaroo over the past few years. And we're here tonight because we have made a mistake. When I joined the board of directors of Gamaroo earlier this year, I was like most of our members when I assumed that the communities that we served as a frontline emergency service knew what Gamaroo was, who we were, what we did, and how we did it. But my mother was right. Again, you should never assume anything. And it turns out the more I'm in this job, the more I realize that the people we serve don't know what we do, who we are, or how we do it. And so we set it as our mission, and it begins tonight, and every night for every group that we can muster, to tell our story and to tell the communities we serve how we serve them and how we do it. So that's why I'm here tonight. And the beginning is, what is Gamaroo? And quite simply, Gamaroo is a community-based volunteer marine search and rescue service dedicated to preserving life on the water. No more complex than that. We've been at it for a while, but two terms in there are very, very important. One is community-based, and the second is volunteer. And we'll come back to that. We've been at this for a while, more than 25 years, in fact, which makes it all the more surprising that people don't know who we are. We are affiliated with the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary, more about them in a moment, and we're the only dedicated marine search and rescue organization from Hamilton to Port Weller. Our priority, clearly, is saving lives. The Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary, for those of you who don't know, is a non-profit organization, an umbrella group. Think of it as the national oversight body for volunteer groups like ours. It sets the standards for our training, for our vessels, for our equipment, for our readiness. And there are linked to the Canadian Coast Guard. GAMRU, in their terms, is considered a community unit. In other words, one that's owned by the community, not by an individual. It may also surprise you to know that all marine and air search and rescue in Canada is the dominion of something called the Joint Rescue Coordination Centre. The nearest one to us is just down the lake at CFB Trenton. And the Joint Rescue Coordination Center has the 50,000-foot view on all things marine and air across the country. The one in Trenton looks after a dominion from the Quebec border all the way to the Northwest Territories. They are our masters. We cannot undertake a mission without their organization and without their authorization. And with their guidance, we work with other organizations on the water, be it police, local fire departments, military, or Coast Guard, or they'll work as independently. They have the view of all of the waters, and they know what piece is where, who's capable of what, and we're dispatched accordingly. We have a great deal of respect for them. It may also surprise you to learn that as a volunteer organization, we have no government funding. Not from municipalities, not from the province, not from the federal government. And rescue services, of course, are free to mariners in distress. You can't charge people for rescuing them. And we are paid a per-hour stipend when we are called upon for an actual rescue. When the Joint Rescue Coordination Center calls, pagers in 31 pockets go off, and off we go, and the clock starts on a per-hour payment that covers essentially the cost of our fuel and our maintenance. Now, I need to stop right there and say, as of last week, the town of Grimsby graciously stepped up and provided assistance for some capital goods that we desperately needed, survival suits for our members, helmets, strobe lights, and things to make our members safer on the water. But the rest of our operating cost, fuel for training, training time, equipment, maintenance, safety gear, everything else is raised by members. And it's even more remarkable when you think that members pay to join GAMRU to put themselves at risk. Give you a little bit of perspective on the organization. Our primary assets are on the water, not surprisingly, and we have two of them. Our vessels are stationed along the lakeshore. Our fast response vessel, the Zodiac you see here, built in 1995, is a very versatile, terrific, well-equipped vessel, ideal for shoreline searches in shallow waters like along your coast, and lives at the Forens Marina in Grimsby. Our primary vessel, our workhorse, is a 34-foot purpose-built, steel-hulled search and rescue vessel, all-weather, all conditions, extraordinarily well-equipped, a crew of 5 to run it, and it is living at the moment at the 50 Point Marina at the 50 Point Conservation Authority. Those are our primary assets, and our primary assets are on the water. Our most important assets are our people. There are about 31 active members and a number of inactive members who support us in things like fundraising. And to be a member, and membership is open, not only do you have to be capable of living with a difficult marine environment, but you have to commit to achieving certain skills with seamanship, boat handling, navigation, search and rescue techniques, first aid, radio, and a number of other things. And we help with that training. We don't expect anybody to hit the water running. We expect to be able to help train them. And that goes on all year long. In the wintertime, we're in classroom. In the boating season, we're on the water. And it's a virtually non-stop process. In addition, during the boating season, which starts roughly in April and usually ends sometime in November, 4 crews of 5 to 7 individuals are on call 24/7 for emergency service. They all carry pagers. The pagers goes off. We all go to the boat. And our membership is made up of, well, the best way to describe them is your neighbors. Think of them as the cop, the professor, the landscaper, the small business person, the renovator, the civil servant. We're like you. We are a picture of your community. And I think that's what makes us perhaps most effective. They're all ages, from all walks of life, and interestingly, we've been able to attract an extraordinary group of young people to a community service that doesn't have a high profile. They are dedicated, they are skilled, and I think it speaks very highly for the future of our organization and for your communities that these young people step up for a community service like that. We're very, very proud of them. What's all this cost? Well, on a running basis, it works out to just a little over $30,000 a year. The charts have all the information for you, and it's nothing you wouldn't expect. Fuel, maintenance, pagers, insurance, dock fees, all the things that it would take to run an organization like that. Now, the astute among you right now will notice that there's no category in there for capital. This is hand to mouth. There's no other way to put it. How do we fund that? Primarily fundraising. About 1/4 of last year, the funds came from that per hour stipend we get on the water when we're called for a rescue. The rest of it is raised by members. There's an auction we hold. You may have seen it on Cogeco. There are donations, memberships. We sell T-shirts and an unholy number of snow cones. If you were down at Daly Park on the Canada Day holiday, we were there not selling enough in the cold weather. One of the things that's really hard to sell is snow cones. Take it from us. And that goes on all year long. Our fundraising is an important part of what we do. Last year, 2015, was a busy year. Now, the details of all of this is in the document, which I believe is part of your package. I'm not certain. But according to the best records we can keep, Gamaroo was called out 20 times for rescues last year. Our average response time was 11 minutes and 34 seconds. We're really proud of that. That's exceptional. Average mission lasted about 1.5 hours on the water, and it was everything from the mundane to the dramatic. Overturned boats, sinking boats, missing vessels, people in the water, fires, medical emergencies, everything you can think of. And just over a year ago, you will recall, our crews were up until the wee hours of the morning searching for the young fisherman who was ultimately lost off of Jordan Harbor. Not every outcome is a good one, but we keep coming back. And that's dedication. The dedication that our members show is in the statistics here. Over 200 hours of training alone, 36 classroom sessions, 47 on the water, about 1,000 person hours on the water, and all of that funded by us. In addition to that, the members who are in the operating crews are on standby for 25,000 hours a year. And in their spare time, they raise funds. What's next? Well, simply more of the same. Just about a month ago, we completed a major exercise on Western Lake Ontario with 2 Coast Guard ships, a number of regional assets like ourselves. You may have seen the yellow helicopter or the black Hercules aircraft over the lake. It's one of those exercises that keeps all of us sharp, and we're very pleased to be part of that. We will be taking in new members in the fall and beginning the training process again to keep our skills up and our membership high. We have determined we will actively seek a replacement for our fast response vessel. It's into its 21st year of service, and it will not last forever, and now is the time to plan for that. And to that end, a major fundraising initiative will be announced in the fall. In capsule form, that's who Gamaroo is, and that's why we're here tonight. Because as servants of your community, we think it's important that you know that. And anything else, we hope to be able to answer if you have questions for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. It's actually on Canada Day, I was walking along and I just got a bottle of water or something, and I saw my neighbor, Andrew Padmore, pulled me over and he said, "Diane, how are you doing?" And I said, "Great." And I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm here with GAMRU." And I said, "Okay, what's that all about?" And he told me all about how you cover Hamilton to Port Weller. He told me about the Joint Rescue Coordination Center. He told me you have no funding, you have 2 boats, about your boat maintenance. He told me all kinds of things. So he was a good advocate on your behalf.
Thank you. He's an excellent ambassador.
Yes. Yeah. He didn't let me go. I had to go. He wouldn't let me go.
We're known for that, yes.
Can you tell me quickly a little scenario, a quick rundown? Let's say I'm out fishing and I fall into the water. I don't come back up. My friend in the boat calls 911, and what happens? How does it get around to you?
There are 2 methods by which that happens. We encourage boaters of all kinds to use the marine system first, marine VHF radio, which majority of boats on the lakes are equipped with. Failing that, star 16 on your mobile phone gets straight through to the marine controller. And they are the first line of defense. 911, yes, is effective. Sometimes an operator in Sudbury may not be aware the most appropriate asset. And one of the things about the marine system is a simple call out on the radio can alert help 100 meters away. And if it has to go to Sudbury first, that's a missing step, and we encourage people to use the marine system. That said, it goes to the Joint Rescue Coordination Center. They determine the most suitable asset, in which case it's the closest asset or the fastest asset, and the conditions and what else they have going on, and dispatch somebody, and that's the 11-minute, 34-second response time for us.
So star 16 from your cell.
From your cell phone.
We'll get you right there. Well, that's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. The information is actually in the back of your package.
Brochure. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Easton, and sounds like we're pretty fortunate community to have service such as you provide. My question is, what do we do before GAMRU? How does it work for those communities that don't have a service that provides what you provide between Hamilton and Port Weller? Is it the Coast Guard that comes in?
Well, we
is it
actually
local firefighters, or how does that work?
Some fire departments do have their own vessels. I believe St. Catharines has 1 or 2. For communities like Jordan, whatever, we can be tasked anywhere on Lake Ontario if the need arises. If a plane were to go down midway across the lake, for instance, they would be calling out the Oakville Rescue Unit, Hamilton Beach Rescue, regular Coast Guard. They would pull out all assets that are available, depending on the situation.
So there's other organizations like yours around the lake?
Yes.
Yes, around the lake, yes. We are the only dedicated one between Hamilton and the Coast Guard station at Port Weller.
It used to be the dominion of the Coast Guard. And as they have been refocused to border security and coastal operations, there have been gaps left in the inland waters, which have been filled by volunteers like ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Easton. I just want to say thank you for coming in tonight. I grew up in the area hearing about GAMRU, and honestly, I had an idea, but I really didn't know what you did. So thank you for coming in tonight and telling us your story. And I want to thank you and all the volunteers for the work that you do. And your response time of 11 minutes is incredible. Like, that's something to really be proud of. And that's really good response time, 11 minutes. And I'm learning about dial star 16?
Star 16, yes.
Through the marine system. That's something I did not know.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming in and sharing with
One of
us
the many
tonight.
jobs we still have to do is to educate more people about that, because frequently the most convenient rescue may be just a couple of 100 meters away on the next boat.
Yeah, I had no idea. So yeah, it's very good information. And you're right, we do have to educate people that are out there on the water in the boats. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brunei?
Thank you, Mary Easton. Just a couple of comments. Again, like most of the councillors, kudos to the work you guys are doing. But And I don't profess to be sitting here in front of you talking about marketing, but, you know, to your point, I mean, you know, you started off your presentation saying your mother was always right, don't assume anything. And, you know, I work in Stony Creek, so I know you have a vessel that's at the 50 Point Marina, and I'm very familiar with your auction that's on Cogeco. But I've lived in this community my entire life, and I mean, by your name, I believe the G stands for Grimsby. And so I just assumed that it was a Stony Creek, Hamilton, Grimsby. Didn't even know you had a presence down in this end of the lake. So I know you've been around for 25 years, but that name, Grimsby, you know, kind of sends a message. Just a point. But kudos to everything you do and your volunteers, and what a dedicated organization. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you. And part of our job is to try and educate, and that's why we're here tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thanks again for coming in. Certainly, I didn't know about the Star 16 either. And I probably should have. I was out fishing with my next door neighbor the other day. So anyway, further to that point, how as a municipality can we assist you guys in you know, that fundraising requirement that you have to bring on new capital assets? Is it being involved in things such as the Canada Day celebrations or any events that we're having within our municipality, you know, having you be a part of that event?
That's certainly an aspect of it, and we do appreciate it, and thank you for the invitation. And we were as disappointed as you were that the fireworks were canceled because we were out there in the boat waiting to patrol.
Oh my goodness, that must have been dreadful.
But I'll come back to you on that, because when we launch the campaign, we're going to need to reach deeply into this community to be able to fund the capital goods that we see coming down the road on the horizon. If we're going to replace the fast response boat, it is not a trivial undertaking. And so we will need your guidance in terms of knowing your community, and maybe some of your personnel in sitting on a board that is just now being discussed to guide us in that process. And we would be grateful for your wisdom in that.
Councillor McMillan.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in tonight. My question concerns the training that your members would have to go through. This has to be very, very specialized training. Does it include things like scuba? And is this member-to-member training, or do you bring in professional people to train you in the intricacies of the type of work that you do?
Indeed, yes, sir. It is very specialized, and some can be done peer-to-peer. Those who have been in the system for a while obviously have an advantage. Also, there is appointed training officers who go off and do their training and come back and bring that to us. For the basic search and rescue training, the candidates all go off to a central location where they're trained by Coast Guard and Coast Guard auxiliary people. So there's tiers of it, and as far as we want to go, we can go. It's elaborate, it's expensive, but it is ongoing, and we strive to do as much of it, as you saw, as we can.
Thank you.
Councillor Petrieva.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Just thanks again for coming in tonight. We used to have a business in Grimsby, and one of our employees, Barb Cook, used to work for us, Barb and Don. So I've known about GAMRU forever, and you know, so I appreciate the work that you do, and I look forward to your fundraising initiative and seeing how we can help out in some way, shape, or form, because it's you know, groups like yourselves that, you know, volunteers for the most part and work tirelessly to protect the waters on the gaps that are open. I mean, if we can help in some way, we will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. And final comment from Councillor Renchima.
Well, one quick question. The primary search and rescue vessel, you need to replace that.
No, the fast response vessel, the first picture that you saw, the little Zodiac, yes.
Oh, okay. So how much do you think, curious how much that would cost to replace?
Are we being practical or are we being wistful here? It is not difficult to imagine spending $250,000 on a vessel like that.
Okay.
Practically, we may have to compromise at something less than that, but we're going to be as thorough as we can in determining the need and then as aggressive as we can to meet it.
So we have a small Zodiac type thing, and I think it costs us $2,500. It's very small.
Thank you. By the time the equipment's on it and properly Coast Guard approved.
Oh, yeah, I believe you.
All right, gentlemen,
thank
thank
you.
you very much for coming this evening, for making us better informed, and we'll certainly look forward, and we'll know who you are when we see you now. So
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillors.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, final delegation is Mr. David Robbins. Mr. Giffen, are you coming up as well?
Sure, that's right.
Come up, gentlemen. From Raimondo and Associates Architects, Inc., and regarding Cuesta Estates and Winery Zoning Bylaw Amendment. Mr. Robbins, are you speaking this evening?
I'll be brief.
Good. Thank you.
We signed up to speak before the final wording was drafted, or before we got a chance to see the final wording. We've reviewed it and are in much agreement with it. I'd just like to note it's been an interesting process so far, and I'd like to thank the planning department, Kathleen Dale and Craig Larmer. They've been proven very helpful, understanding, and patient. We feel that we're quite excited about the project, and I trust that it will be a valuable member of the agro-tourism, tourism and the business community in the town of Lincoln, if not the general community of the town of Lincoln.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Giffen, do you have any comments?
Yeah, basically, I would reiterate Mr. Robbins' comments. I'd like to thank council and staff for the work on this project, this bylaw, and I look forward to working together on the next phase of this project.
Very good. Thank you very much. You can just step back and we'll be moving on with reports now. Is there any correspondence, Mr. Clerk? We move on to reports, and we have the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee of June 27th, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor McMillan that the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee meeting of June the 27th, 2016, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. So for that evening, we had everybody on board except Councillor Timmers was in for Councillor Thompson, who was under the weather, wasn't feeling well that night. I'm glad he's feeling better. We had 3 delegations. 2 of them were regarding a road allowance closure requests, because we recently just opened up that process after a few years of having a moratorium on road allowance closure requests. We had one on Quarry Road, and we had a slight amendment to that. So the process was that committee was to make the decision that night whether to carry on with the process of considering these road allowance closure requests. If committee decides to carry on with the process, the next step was to refer it to legal, and then there'll be a public process, and through that a final decision will be made. And the recommendation for the one on Quarry Road was to amend the layout slightly to allow for, there was access to a neighbor's property that would have been blocked if the entire road allowance had been closed and sold off. So the decision was to carry on with that slight amendment. There was another one on 11th Street. And again, the same decision was to carry on, refer it to legal, and have a public meeting. There were some concerns brought forward to discuss that night about one of the parcels is landlocked, and there were some questions about how this will all play out, considering it's in the Greenbelt area. And that one, they're looking at closing the road allowance consolidating parcels and then splitting them again through a committee of adjustment process. And again, time will tell how that plays out. The other delegation was a noise bylaw exemption request, was regarding a noise bylaw exemption request from Redstone Winery. And the fellow that came forward had a lot of concerns about some events that had been held there recently prior to their receiving a noise bylaw exemption. And the fact that they had applied late for their exemption request according to the terms under the noise bylaw. So the motion that came forward in that regard was that the exemption be granted for the reasons and subject to the conditions outlined in the report, that staff be directed to meet with Redstone Winery immediately to discuss mitigation efforts for the August event, and that a corrective course of action up to and including a fine or other measures for the June and July events be undertaken. So we talked about our decision to be putting in place a special events bylaw, and that we're going to be looking at a new model for bylaw enforcement very shortly, and how this will all come into play in situations like that. As we grow, we're going to be having more events. As we support agritourism, there's going to be a little bit of a balancing act going on there. Then we moved on to correspondence. There were 7 items. A couple of them were picked out to support. One was a request from St. Catharines Council to communicate with the NPCA, AMO, the region, and other municipalities to control phragmites, which is a tall and really kind of pretty grass that we see growing along the highways. We're told it's invasive and it's harmful to the natural environment and, of course, to agriculture, which concerns us. So committee decided to support that. There was also a suggestion from the City of Welland asking municipalities to ask the province to ban door-to-door sales in the home services sector. We're seeing a lot increasingly hearing of scammers claiming to be from the municipality going door to door, saying that they're here to check the water meter and that sort of thing. So we supported that. And there also was a correspondence from St. Catharines suggesting that the municipalities join in to nominate Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip to the Order of Canada. Recently, there was an announcement, and we've all heard of that he's been diagnosed with brain cancer. They're doing a final tour. There's the strong feeling that he's a strong contributor to raising awareness and the celebrations of Canada's identity and culture. And that's very timely with Canada Day just passing us now. So committee supported that. And there was also talk about a motion from St. Catharines regarding Ontario's autism program, and that there's a long wait list. We talked a little bit about supporting that, but we also know that that's being looked at the province right now. So we're going to wait a little bit and see what comes out of that. Also very important. And then we had correspondence from the 20 Valley Tourism Association asking us to designate the Tuesday night music series as a municipally significant event, because they would like to serve wine, as they did last year, to people who are going to be sitting there enjoying the music starting tomorrow night. And that was granted. Then under reports, we had 2 road allowance, the reports regarding the 2 road allowance requests and the noise exemption request that I talked about earlier under delegations. We had another noise bylaw exemption request for a wedding rehearsal on New Haven Grove on July 16th for the evening. There were no concerns from the neighbors. Committee members stated that they were impressed with how the orderly way that the event was planned, and that there was a lot of communication with the neighbors so that they're aware of it. Maybe they're coming out to the event to join in. There was some concern, however, with the application again being late, according to the parameters contained within the noise bylaw. So again, these are things that we have to be looking at when we look at our special events bylaw process and put it into place. We've got to make sure that that these things all fall in line. That exemption was granted. And then we had a request from Vineland Research Station requesting an adjustment to their wastewater portion of their bill. They had a water leak on their property for a while, and they weren't able to find it. The water wasn't processed because it went right into the ground. Committee approved this, the funding of this, and decided to rebate the wastewater portion of their bill and to have it come from the Operating Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund. And this is something we've done before. We updated the mileage reimbursement policy numbers from 2008 so that they fall in line with other municipalities. It used to be 46 cents a kilometer. It's now 54 cents a kilometer. Then we had our fire department annual report. Always a good discussion as we look forward to where our investments should be, keep our town safe as we grow and as we have major developments like Prudham's Landing coming on board. And then we had a closed session as somebody had to resign from one of our local boards. That was our meeting. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you very much. And I have Councillor Pachariva and then Councillor McMillan.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just, I guess, a point of clarification with CS 16-15. Having attended the meeting that night, we had a really wholesome discussion about the noise bylaw exemption request. We had a very well detailed and itemized presentation by Mr. Brown, who's in the audience tonight. And one who attended that meeting knew the outcome of the meeting, but reading these minutes and having a conversation with a couple of the councillors today, they don't seem to reflect the what happened that evening, or maybe I'm reading it wrong. I was under the impression that we granted the exemption for the event in August, and that the other two would be discussed. And then an exemption from the Town of Lincoln noise bylaw number 0848 be granted for the reasons. Well, they weren't granted for all three. They were granted for the one, and that staff be directed to meet with Redstone and Ridey to discuss mitigating efforts for that August event and corrective actions for the other two. Something's missing there because, I mean, the discussion that we had, we talked about process and we talked about how things are done, and it's just not there. So, I mean, the layperson or outsider that would pick these up and read it and go, oh, well, everything's granted. Well, that's not the case. So can we fix that in some way, shape, or form? Councillor Foster, I had the conversation with Councillor McMillan and Councillor McPherson and Councillor Bernay all today about this isn't what we said that night. So wondering how we can fix that to get it into the public record properly, because we had a very fulsome discussion about it.
Okay, Councillor McMillan's next, and then Councillor Foster, and then the CAO or the clerk will respond, okay? Go ahead, Councillor McMillan.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. What Councillor Pachariva was talking about is exactly one of the concerns that I had, and that the last two items in the motion about mitigating efforts for the August event and corrective course of action, I had no idea what that was referring to, and I was going to ask for an explanation of those. So that may follow in just exactly what Councillor Pachariva was talking about. The other thing that concerns me is that because of the concerns of the neighbors, and they're bringing those concerns to this table, and the fact that the outdoor entertainment component in the wineries is growing and growing very quickly, and we have to be aware of that as well. And I'm wondering, in the light of those things, whether there are sections within this bylaw, are they still relevant? And this bylaw was enacted in 2008, so we may be in a position now to have a look at some of those particular sections within that bylaw and see whether they need to be updated and make the necessary changes. The sections I'm referring to are particularly sections 7 and 8, which deals with the exemption by council, and the other section, which is number 13, which is the prohibition by the time and date, and again, whether those are still relevant. And I had a conversation with the CAO and asked about whether it is an opportune time to have a look at this bylaw and those particular sections, or in the whole thing for that matter, and make some necessary changes and bring it up to date with the activity that we see within our town, within the entertainment at the wineries.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, and then we'll move on to Councillor Foster and then Councillor Njima.
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, we need advice from the clerk and or the CAO because as Councillor Pachariva has mentioned, that particular evening, the motion stated clear, or the motion that was dealt with was very clear. We were approving the August one. The other two were to go into the hands of the CAO to deal with. That was the way that we dealt with that. So whatever recommendation you guys can give to us on how to correct this at this point before we approve this would be most helpful. Secondly, just a minor correction on what the chair was saying about the Vineland Research Station. We're not granting the entire amount back. It's only a portion. And it was a negotiated amount that was decided at that point. Certainly they are paying a fair bit towards wastewater management with what it is that they are still doing, but it was not the entire amount. Most of our discussion that evening was how monies were going to be funded for that, and I thought the committee made a good decision on that. And I think that's it. So yeah, we just need some help on what we're dealing with that motion.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Njima, then Councillor McPherson.
Right, yeah, the discussion was, there was a lot of concern about the two events and making sure that the event in the future happens properly, and the motion was read out at the meeting, and there was a lot of discussion about making sure that this doesn't happen again. And exactly as Councillor Pachariva said, the two previous events weren't supposed to be approved, and if the wording in the motion is incorrect, then let's change that. And further to Councillor McMillan's suggestion to look at the noise bylaw, I think that's something that we had sort of previously said we were going to do as part of the whole special events bylaw process. It's definitely something we need to look at. Thank you.
All right, Councillor McPherson.
I want to leave the Redstone, so if anybody has anything else with Redstone, I'll have them ask the question. But my question's around the road closures, and just a question about the process. This is new. This is certainly new for me. There's been a moratorium on the road closures since this term of office, or this term of council started. And my question is, it appears as though in these minutes that the road closures or the road closures were approved, and that we're going to legal to cover that off. So if that's not the interpretation, please help me here.
Councillor McPherson, they were not approved. They were directed to legal for a legal interpretation of the recommendations that staff was making. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it is correct. Let me just provide a little bit more clarity for you, Councillor. What we presented and came back with, what in both cases was a possible solution that would work, still maintaining access to the waterfront, still maintaining that piece of it, but looking at a different way of doing it. What we're recommending is going to legal investigation, and then following that, there still is the public consultation, public meeting aspect that would be coming back to planning to allow you to make a final decision. So it is by no means a final decision. There is still an off-ramp, so to speak, should council choose to have that potential off-ramp. But what we've come back with is solutions that allow us to maintain what we hope to maintain, and that is waterfront access, but allows us to move forward with some of these issues to make them viable possibilities.
Would we want to put that public process in the minutes as well? And I guess my other comment or question would be: is this what we're looking at for each inquiry on road closure, that we're going to take it through a legal process and then a public process, and each time. Maybe through you to clerk.
Mr., just a moment. I should have stopped you before you started talking about your second subject. I'd like to go back and deal with the issue around the noise at Redstone. And Mr. Kokopoulos, if you would give us a few comments on that, and then if there's any amendments that are required, we will deal with those, and then we'll come back and deal with what you're looking at.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So taking us back to Redstone and the motion that's before you, and I think there's two parts that require a little bit of clarification. And just to let you know, the motion that is before you in the package is the motion that was read out to Chair Ojima's comment, from that night. This is the exact motion. There's two pieces. There's a mitigation efforts, and I think maybe people are caught up on that one, and that relates to the August event. I think what we mean by mitigation efforts is we've heard from Mr. Brown, we've heard from others, that they're not meeting the right locational issues that I think have been agreed on, and sound issues, and making sure that things are finishing on time. So the direction that, and how we interpret it, is that I would be having conversations with folks at Redstone. I have reached out to Mr. Pounder and Ms. Lawrence, who are the two individuals at those locations that I have contacts for through our clerk, and the ones that we've been dealing with as it relates to these particular issues. So when we refer to mitigation efforts, it's determining how, for that August event, we don't find ourselves in a similar situation where, yes, they've adhered to the 60-day window, but then there's the other issues on the potential site. As it relates to the last part of that and the corrective actions up to and including fines, as it relates to the June and July events, the June event has passed. It had passed when we had dealt with this. So there's some conversations that need to be had, again, with the proponents about, and I think some of the comments we heard that night were not flaunting the fact that they hadn't adhered to the potential policy. So there needs to be conversations with them as it relates to that, ensuring that they understand very clearly there's a 60-day window, and that there are potential fines and other issues that go along with not adhering to our bylaws. As it relates to the July event, we didn't pass anything on the July event in terms of them going forward or not going forward. At the end of the day, we really I'm not sure how we stop them from going forward, but again, I think the point of the conversation and the direction I received was to have a conversation with them to lay out very clearly that Council has a strong position on this. Council wasn't happy with how this process has ensued, and that we need to be dealing with all these cases, whether it be Redstone or the other ones we dealt with that evening, in a consistent manner. And we also spoke about bylaw services and the fact that we are going to a more proactive bylaw model, an in-house model, and that in the future, that's going to allow us to be far more responsive a lot quicker. So I don't know if that provides clarity. I can answer any further questions as it relates to that.
I'd just like to have one moment here. I'm going to ask the clerk. We did not lift either of these motions. So if you are planning on any amendments, any friendly amendments, I must remind you, I just want to check with the clerk before we have any further discussion how we will proceed here, because I don't know what you have in mind. Mr. Clerk, are we in a position now where we should be lifting these motions? We've had so much discussion here.
You're certainly approaching that point. If there is going to be a movement to introduce an amendment, then lifting it to deal with it separately is completely appropriate. If, however, your discussions, you're able to resolve any concerns that you might have, then lifting is not necessary. So it's at the sort of pleasure of council on that.
Okay, then Councillor Foster, your comments, please.
Well, concerning this, I'm happy with the CAO's explanation, but it has to be clear for all of us that we did not approve the two first ones. So if what he's saying from a directional point of view, if we're good with that, I'm okay with it. But we just have to be clear, because it may create some havoc for the CAO himself as he has his discussions with Redstone on that particular one. And I want to talk about the road closures later.
All right, we'll go to that one next. The clerk's assured me that he is including the CAO's comments in these minutes. All right, now, Councillor Patrieva, you're next.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just in order, I mean, to keep it proper in the public record, and I might be, by no means am I versed on the ins and outs of this like our clerk, Mr. Colossus is, I would just feel more at ease at dropping that second notion about, and that an exemption from the Town of Lincoln noise bylaw number 0848 be granted for the reasons and subject to the conditions outlined in this report. I would just have the first that we receive for information, and that staff be directed to meet with Redstone immediately to discuss mitigation efforts for the August event, and that a corrective course will be for June and July. Because I don't know if that means a friendly amendment, I would feel more comfortable doing it that way.
All right, Mr. Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if you want to proceed in that direction, then the appropriate course of action is to lift that motion to deal with it separately, and then make the necessary amendments at that time.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since I raised this issue with Councillor Patrieva, just those last two items within that motion, I'm quite satisfied with the explanation that came from the CAO. So I'm okay with that now. I have a much better understanding of what's going on.
All right, now the CAO is going to give us some commentary.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just one comment, and I think, and maybe we need to go away if we decide, it's a friendly amendment, Councillor Patrieva, because we need to still in that motion determine how we approve, and I just spoke with the clerk, how we approve August's, but not the other two. So I think that line is intended to approve the noise exemption for the August incident, or for the August event. I shouldn't call it an incident, the August event. And so I did want to highlight that point. So if we want to make that specific, that a noise exemption be received as information and granted for the August event, just to add the clarity that it's for the August event, I think that probably achieves what you're hoping to achieve. And just one comment that I had forgotten to Councillor McMillan's point around, the review of the noise bylaw. It is something that SMT discussed last week. It is something that needs to be addressed. For example, I know Mr. Brown pointed out a September event where a choir is going to be playing there on a Sunday, mid-afternoon. That contravenes our bylaw as well. Because it's a Sunday and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we do need to look at it. We do need to make sure that the right process is being followed. And as it stands right now, that right process isn't being followed. Some of that is the responsibility of the municipality to ensure that our bylaws are reviewed. And so this one's definitely at the top of our list when we discussed it on Friday, or on Wednesday of last week.
Thank you very much. What is your pleasure, Councillor Patrieva?
Well, through your worship, I just don't want to put our CAO in a difficult position when he goes to negotiate with them, saying.
Then you
well,
better start writing.
Then I've already okay.
Okay. Okay. While we're waiting for that, then let's move. Let's talk about the road closure. Do I have a list for the road closure? I have Councillor Foster. Anyone else? Councillor McPherson, do you want to make some introductory comments?
I've just put it out there just from a process standpoint and just a question about how this works.
Okay.
So
You have no
I'm open for
intentions of lifting it, I take it?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Councillor Foster?
So just to allay any fears, there was no decision made to go forward, but that is going to legal, and some of the things that are involved with at least one of these road closures are going to be fascinating from a planning point of view. There's changes in lot lines are going to have to happen. There's a variety of things that are going to go into play. And so it's important to have the legal background before we even start considering some of this stuff. It's pretty much standard operating when it comes to road closures to make sure that we have our ducks in a row from a legal point of view before we ever really truly get into it. So unfortunately, you haven't had the opportunity yet to go through this with this council, as we did have the moratorium in place, but this is a pretty standard process that we're about to go into. Not necessarily saying that we're going to approve it in the end. I mean, we may well say no, but we do have to have our ducks in a row from a legal perspective. So.
Thank you. Councillor Njima, did you have a comment?
I was basically going to say the same thing Councillor Foster said, that the process is going to legal, then we're going to have a public meeting, and that's kind of what we did before we lifted the moratorium. So, yeah, well, there was a lot of discussion about it. It wasn't a final decision at all. It was just a decision to go forward with the process in both cases.
Very good. So, just so that everybody's clear, the issue on the road closures, the road allowances, not the road closures, but the road allowances, you're finished with the discussion on that. Is that correct for the present time? Excellent. And everything's clear? I was absolutely delighted with the discussion at the committee. I felt it was substantive. We were provided with a number of options, which I think is really what we wanted. Now we get the legal opinion on whether the big ideas are the best ideas, and we'll go forward. It's a good process. All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Foster, that motion number FA 2016-59 be lifted and dealt with separately. Your pleasure on the motion. Any opposed? The motion is carried. All right, now we'll deal with item number FA 2659. Do we have a list? Do you have anything more to speak about this, or are you writing a motion?
I'm writing.
I'm glad.
I'm writing so you can read it.
I'm going to make him suffer.
Oh, while I'm writing, though, Your Worship, can I just?
Only if you can.
I can write and talk. Just like to repeat, because of the dry situation, that we do have a fire ban in place. We were updated on it at that meeting that night, and also a fireworks ban. And I want to congratulate the chief over there for being front page on the News Now on Friday for winning the race at the Poultry Fest. So kudos, Chief. No,
Yes.
no, I highlighted this.
All right, Councillor Pachariva, that's the end of the sidebar comments here, believe me, you're done. Okay, well, you're writing the motion. Committee, Councillor, let's look at the rest of these. The F&A Committee, is there any other comments in regard to the minutes? So that we can have that all put aside. Anybody else? Councillor Foster?
Just a quick comment, too, on...
Nothing about fire bans.
Oh, now you threw me off. The special, as Councillor Njima said, special events, we still have a bit of work to finish that one off, but it's going to be the noise bylaw that really is going to put things in play. The special events, remember, combines a number of other bylaws, and so as we go through and upgrade and finish these things off, hopefully it's going to put a nice package together so people know and understand exactly where things should be. So, thank you.
Very good. And I think my comment about the whole bylaw piece is that, you've heard me say over and over again, when I speak about the executive role of council, you have to have current and very good bylaws in place in order to govern. And sometimes we get into the minutiae of things, and we're not paying attention to things up at this level. Whatever bylaw is in place, regardless of how old it is, that's the one you're dealing with when you're making a decision. There's no point in trying to second guess what might be or what should be. You have what you have in front of you. So the whole idea of bringing forth a list of bylaws, prioritizing those bylaws, making some decisions about which ones need to be done immediately or later, getting some timelines on them, that's what's going to see us through the future, because we have a lot of moving parts in Lincoln right now, and we're going to be making a lot of decisions in the future. We have to be well prepared.
20th.
Okay. I think you should be saying. All right. Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor McMillan, that report CS 16-15 regarding Redstone Winery, 1C, request for noise, is that one? Inc. Thank you. Redstone Winery, Inc. Request for noise exemption be received as information. And then an exemption from the Town of Lincoln noise bylaw number 08-48 be granted for the August 20th, for the reasons outlined in this report. That staff be directed to meet with Redstone Winery immediately to discuss mitigation efforts for the August event. And that a corrective course of action up to and including a fine on or other measures for the June and July events be utilized? Undertaken.
I have a mixture of spelling and cursive.
Yes, yes. All right, does everyone understand? Would you like me to read it again? All right. That report CS 16-15 regarding Redstone Winery, Inc., request for an exemption be received, for noise exemption be received as information, and that an exemption from the Town of Lincoln noise bylaw number 08-48 be granted for the August 20th for the reasons outlined in this report. And that staff be directed to meet with Redstone Winery immediately to discuss mitigation efforts for the August event, and that a corrective course of action up to and including a fine or other measures for the June and July events be undertaken. Anything further, Councillor Pachariva? Councillor Foster.
Just a quick comment that last line that's in there that you've added in. I think what we were trying to do at that particular meeting was to leave it in the hands of the CAO without giving direction as to what it was that he was going to do. And we were trying to approve the August the 20th and make sure that the mitigation was being done for it. So my opinion is that that last piece that was added to that is over the top. So, okay.
Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I understand both council's intent and what's written, and to the point of trying to give me clear direction and make it easier for me. I absolutely know my direction reading this, so I'm completely comfortable with it.
All right, Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, just as a point, I didn't add that. It was in the original motion. I just took out that one and put specifically the date. So that was the motion written that night. So.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Does everyone understand the motion? Your pleasure on the motion. None opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Pachariva, Councillor McMillan, Councillor Foster. That direction will stand us in good stead as we go forward. These things are not going to get easier, they're going to get more interesting. All right, now let's go back to the original motion. Councillor Pachariva, Councillor McMillan, that the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee meeting of June 27, 2016, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted as amended, and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Your pleasure on the motion. None opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting meeting, and I think our discussion tonight and the amendments reflect that. Moving on to the Economic Development and Planning Committee of the Town of Lincoln, June 29th. And we have what was in the package and the loose piece, this is the amended version. Okay. We are speaking to the amended version. I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that the minutes of the Economic Development and Planning Committee meeting of June 29, 2016 be adopted as amended and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Councillor Foster, would you just point out the amendment to us, please, as you go through?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, generally speaking, within this, there was a number of corrective measures that had to be taken on who was chairing, what was happening at different points in time, and so in discussion with the clerk and also with the director of planning. They were corrected in order to reflect what was really happening.
All right.
And I think actually, in all fairness, we had a new person doing the minutes, and so it was just it was a first-time jitters maybe as we went through that. So anyway, we got it cleared up, and so what is sitting in front of you reflects what it is that we did that evening.
All right, very good, thank you.
So I'll try to be brief, and hopefully we don't have too many arguments about what it is that we passed at this meeting. First of all, we had Mr. Lupaconian talking to us about the mixed use and intensification community improvement plan. It was a decision made some time ago that this was going to be one of the primary CIPs that we were going to be working on. So Luke was able to lay out for us the next steps that are going to go on with the process, including public processes that are going to be coming up in the not-too-distant future, and also gave a good presentation on this. So I thought that worked out rather well. Also, delegation, we had Pat Maloney talking concerning the Adelic the application that we dealt with that evening. And Mr. Robbins was also in talking about the other one for Cuesta. Correspondence, although there was a lot of discussion, I'm just going to breeze over this. There was 3 reports that we dealt with Niagara region-wise, and so the first one was the project initiation concerning the regional official plan amendment of watercourse policies and mapping. The Lakefront Incentive 2015 program summary, that was just a regional report that was showing us what's happened with that. And then the Niagara 2041 Growth Strategy Local Municipal Engagement Summary Report. So that's a follow-up to other discussions that we have had in the past with this particular, within this particular area. First report we dealt with was concerning the bylaw amendment application of 1650607 Ontario Limited, John Adelic. There was a lot of discussion about it. That particular motion was carried concerning this particular winery and microbrewery that's going on at the east end of town. There were a number of holding provisions that were put onto this as well, and these are fairly standard when it comes to this type of an application. Second one was Cuesta Estates and Winery Inc. Again, there was a lot of discussion about this one. Actually, it was kind of interesting. The staff had recommended a bit more strength in the discussion around heritage, but committee suggested we take a step back from what it was that had been suggested within the original motion and essentially have the Heritage Committee being consulted during the site plan, which is the appropriate level for this, and that also the Heritage Committee should be coming to Council if there's certain things that there's potential designation that's going into play. I think generally speaking, staff want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row with this as we're moving down the road, but the Planning Committee doesn't have the right to be designating heritage designations on the thing. That comes to Council and that comes through Heritage Committee. So anyway, so the decision was made to I wouldn't say loosen, but at least have the other process that's coming into play for the site plan with this. The really big one of the evening was the Purdom secondary plan and the consultant selection. Excellent discussion given to us by both our CAO and by Mrs. Dale. concerning the group that we're going to be doing. Fortunately for us, we are going to be receiving half of the funds for this from Niagara Region, which is very beneficial to us. So it's a little more than what we had expected, but this is big. This is the big one for the municipality, and we got to make sure that this is being done right. So, and lots of good discussion going on within that as well. Just a quick thing under councillor inquiries, and I was glad Councillor McPherson brought it up. There was this little fire down at Prudhoe, speaking of Prudhoe, and so the chief and planning department and CAO and everyone were able to give us a brief update on that. And the process for getting a demolition permit in place is well underway, and the idea is that we will be seeing those things demolished at some point in time, as yet to be determined, and if the CAO wants to provide a bit more information on that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to pick up on Chair Foster's comment as it relates to Prudhome's, staff did meet last week. We are working to address any issues and helping to facilitate. I know the chief's been involved dealing with the proponents in terms of utility shutoff so that can proceed. I anticipate that it'll be going forward, I'd like to say in the next week to 2 weeks at most, so it will be coming down in fairly short order. I did highlight something at that committee that I do want to highlight tonight, and that is, anytime these sorts of things happen, we often find ourselves reading in the media and in other blogs and so forth, disparaging comments, by members of the public. It's never helpful to our process. It's never helpful to the process, in dealing with proponents when we're looking at addressing these things, when those types of comments are made. So I encourage those watching, I encourage those listening at least to refrain from those types of comments, because they're never helpful to what we're doing. So, just to close the loop on that, likely in the next week to week and a half, you'll see a demolition permit issued and that building coming down.
Thank you very much. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just want to make a comment about the Cuesta applications that we had before us, and in connection with that, I must say that I am very, very pleased that heritage issues are becoming part of the planning process and being included in the planning reports. They've happened before, but I think it's an important step that they're there and these issues are brought forward when we're discussing these things. And in the original recommendation that came from the planning department, there was the condition there that the heritage designation of the school would be a condition for approval of the process. And that was taken out. And I don't have any problem with that. I think that was the right thing to do. I don't think that the designation should be a condition for approval of this this process. But the designation of the properties should not be a deterrent to or something that slows down the process. It's just not fair to the applicant to have that happen. And knowing that the designation of any properties can go on by themselves, and this can happen simultaneously. It doesn't have to happen before or after, but it can happen at the same time. And I'm very, very pleased as well that there's support and my personal support for the recommendation regarding the consulting process. And this is exactly the role and the mandate of the Heritage Committee as an advisory to Council. And I'm very, very pleased to see that in there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Pachariva.
Yes, Your Worship, through you. With respect to the regional report, Lakefront Enhancement 2015 Incentive Program Summary. I see the town of Fort Erie has a couple plans in here. The Bay Beach Master Plan and Lake Erie Unopened Waterfront Road Allowance Access Improvements. Might the Prudhome's project qualify for a similar type of funding, or is that ineligible because we're already receiving dollars through the region? And then the second one, and we've had a presentation Mr. Jaworski about this, and in keeping with our launch of our active transportation committee, that this might be something that, you know, we look at going into 2016, either that or some funding through this program for, you know, tying in with Canada 2015 or 27 or 150 and you know, some Charles Daly Park improvements. You know, I hate like heck seeing these other municipalities taking front of you know, shared dollars dealing with lakefront enhancement, and you know, we've had these issues coming up, and you know, we've got an access now to some funds to help us move these along. So you know, I look forward to hopefully seeing those in the new year and having, you know, a fulsome discussion at budget time, you know, with these numbers put in there, because these are some of the things that we have laid out, and if there's you know, regional dollars available, behooves us to go after them.
Thank you. Mr. Kirkopoulos, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. To that point, Councillor, and I know you and I had spoken prior to that meeting, that was one of the comments that I raised, and one of the points that I brought up at committee, and that was that I've already spoken to the region about the Lakefront Enhancement Fund, and not to put words in their mouth, but it's definitely, I would say, Lincoln's turn. You see a lot of municipalities on that list within the region that have already been fortunate enough to receive funds as it relates to the lakefront enhancement work that they're doing. And so, you know, I've let Mr. Mustakji, the Commissioner of Planning, know that he will be receiving applications from us, and you know, I've asked him, you know, from their perspective, you know, how that aligns to some of our priorities, and where we can maybe submit more than one ask, actually.
Councillor Thompson, and then Councillor Njima.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. There's a couple of items in this meeting that sort of caught me, and I was kind of pleased to hear. First of all, certainly the commentary around from the Director of Planning around disclosure of DCs, both town and regional, through the planning process, or at least getting an estimate for the applicants so that they're clear as to what they're budgeting for, as opposed to a surprise $20,000 bill or something to that effect. Certainly would be good, and it sounds like the Director is going to try and assist with that, which is positive. And the other thing was I'm really pleased to see the brewery and distillery going on with the heritage component, certainly at the Maple Grove School and St. Helens Church, and I look forward to seeing the hops growing. And the last thing was the Prud'homme's consultant combination, I guess you'd say. Certainly, we have only one kick at this cat to get this particular property done properly, and I'm glad to see the vast experience and the depth of experience from the consultants that we're going to work with, and the region is definitely committed to working with us on this piece of property, as well as a couple other ones, because obviously they're going to be a jewel in everybody's crown. So I'm pleased to see that, and it'll be worth the money.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Njima?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. My question was just a little bit to what Councillor Pacheco was talking about with the lakefront enhancement strategy, and the question, I guess, through you to the CAO is this incentive program or something that goes on year round, or is there a deadline? When will we be taught?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there is a deadline to this particular one. It is something that is, you know, that is cyclic in nature. I don't actually have the documents in front of me, but we can definitely share with Council what those timelines are. But we'll definitely be coming back to committee first to share with you what the criteria are and what projects, from a staff perspective, we're recommending go forward on that particular fund.
Okay, because there's a number of places it could be applied, and thank you.
And the timing escapes me at the moment, but the terms of reference for this incentive program have been changed recently, and so it isn't just for lake fronts. There are also rivers and other bodies of water that are included. And I'm not sure if I sent those, if I forwarded them to the CAO, but they'll come automatically from the region anyway to the planning department.
Great.
All right, thank you very much. And any other comments? Nothing? All right, your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Bylaws, Mr. Clerk. Wow, we have confirmation of compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. A motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Foster, that Council has considered the requirements of paragraph 17 of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, and concludes that no further notice of public meeting is required on the matter of the following proposed amendments to zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1. Number 2016-50-Z475 to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended of the Town of Lincoln, Cuesta Estates and Winery, Inc. Comments? Questions? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Brunet that leave be given to introduce the following bylaw, number 2016-50-Z475, to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended of the Town of Lincoln, Cuesta Estates and Winery, Inc. Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. A motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Timmers that bylaw number 2016-50-Z475 read a first time be now read a second and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Are there any councillor inquiries? Any notice of motion? Sorry, Councillor
Through you, Madam Mayor,
McPherson.
just maybe a quick update through the chief on the burn ban, if we could.
Very good. Chief Hudson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the burn continues. The burn ban continues for the foreseeable future. We monitor every day, but the conditions continue to be too dry to really safely support burning. It is posted on our website, so just as soon as we lift it, we'll get the notification out as soon as we can.
Very good, thank you.
Good point, Councillor. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, I hope you're really paying attention. This has become quite a serious set of circumstances in town, and even in spite of the burn ban last week, as well as the ban on fireworks, private property owners insisted on proceeding, and really this is a most serious situation, and the drought is really quite a situation for us, and there's no relief in sight. So I would advise you very, very firmly to adhere to the bylaw. And certainly there will be follow-up if there are infractions, because we just cannot afford to be put at risk in this way. Anything more, Councillor McPherson?
No, that's good, thank you.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, actually to the Chief. Chief, there was a report today in the St. Catharines Standard that their fire department was experiencing, the same difficulties over the weekend, reporting to 6 calls on Saturday and I think 7 on Sunday about either, fireworks being shot off in course of the ban or illegal fires taking place, which then, as the trucks are going out, then compromises the safety situation when an actual event arises. Wondering if you faced any complications, with the fatality that you experienced on Saturday on Victoria Avenue.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, the surrounding municipalities have had some issues, and I'm happy to say that we haven't had nearly the difficulties that the other municipalities have had. Certainly, it has not impeded our ability to respond to emergency calls yet, but as the mayor stated before, it's really important that everybody really abide by the ban to avert a tragedy and injury and property loss to the community.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments? Any announcements? Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just announcing that we are ready to roll out the BIA Farmers Market this Saturday, July the 9th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Up on Beam Street, one street parallel to King Street. Looking like the weather's going to work out for us. Got our fingers crossed, but we've got a good number of vendors and very excited. You should see signs going up in the community this week. So hope that everybody takes the opportunity to come out and support our BIA Farmers Market. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Brunet and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Just one quick comment. You made a mention in your mayor's report about this council and the work that you as a mayor at the region and myself as a member of the steering committee at the region, Transportation Steering Committee, and the fact that we have gone on record to the region about the fact that at this point we see no positive support to the downloading or the uploading of the two airports. So I just wanted to make a comment that as a member of that Transportation Steering Committee, I will be attending a tour of both of the airports, the one on July 13th and then the Pelham and Welland Airport, the Niagara District Airport on the 14th. So I will certainly come back to council after those two tours and report some of the comments from the tour. But at this point, we've certainly expressed our opinion that we're not supporting the downloading or uploading of those two airports. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to remind folks of the East End Farmers Market that's going on Wednesdays down in the Jordan Hollow from 4 to 8. So every Wednesday they've got a farmers market going down there as well, just in case you can stop on Wednesday, get fueled up with your things, your fresh fruits and vegetables, and then Saturday after that you can head to Beamsville and get some more. So you should be well stocked throughout the week.
Yes, it's that time, certainly that time. Any other announcements, Councillor Timmers?
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Just a quick announcement that we will be celebrating the Moses F. Rittenhouse Public Library's 20th anniversary, 20 years already, and that celebration will be on Friday, July 15th, with cake and speeches from 1 to 5, and everyone is welcome. Yes, cake.
Wouldn't Moses F. Rittenhouse be absolutely amazed that his every time he wrote a check, it just seemed like the money went on forever, almost, maybe not in every case, but he certainly had a lot of trust throughout the town, and we've been all better off for it. The next item on the agenda is closed session. I have a motion moved by Councillor McMillan and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that council adjourn to closed session in order to address a proposed or pending educational or training session, a matter pertaining to GO Transit. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. We appreciate your interest. Your pleasure on the motion, councillors. The motion is carried. Very good, thank you.